Everybody that's watching out there, welcome back to our stream. We have some new friends joining us from the IGDA Foundation, as well as FDOT, who's going to be conducting our interview today. Why don't you guys, I'll let you guys take it away, I guess.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Excellent. Very excited. Very excited. It's a fun time being here in the middle of the giant event. And we've got Nika Noor. I'm sorry. How do you say your last name?
Nika Noor. Yeah.
Noor. There you go. Perfect.
Noor.
Nika, Noor,
there's
and
like
Sarah.
a no. Yeah. There's a no in Noor.
Noor. Perfect.
No.
I like
or.
I like that. I like that. And Sarah Spears?
It depends on which side of the family you ask, actually, but let's go with Spears for today.
we like that one. I already am batting 1,000. My name's it's just Tom. That's all it is. But you guys, big platform here. As we're sitting here in the Global Game Jam, you guys represent the IGDA Foundation, right? Nika, I'll let you sort of take it and run with it. Why don't you break down a little bit of what your foundation does, what IDGA stands for, and the whole thing.
Yeah, so the IGDA Foundation is the International Game Developers Association Foundation. We're actually separate from the IGDA. So the IGDA is the trade org that supports all individuals in the game community with over 150 global chapters. The IGDA Foundation is the C3 that focuses specifically on one goal and one mission, where we want to welcome everyone who wants to create and make games to do so. It shouldn't matter, your race, gender, creed, religion, whatever. If you want to create it, you should make it. And who you are, the skin you're born in, the identity that you want to carry yourself on this earth should not be a damn obstacle in doing so. So we are very, very feverishly pushing forward to have this not just like an inclusive community, not just to be seen as help. I know it's being a nonprofit, it's a little bit softer side of Sears, but we know that in the games industry, diversity and inclusion is a whole different gambit. It's just a whole other ball game, and we are really, really committed to ensuring that people feel safe and can just follow their passions and not have to worry about the crap in terms of the toxicity or online harassment or weird workplace dilemmas. We're just here to cut through that noise because it's bullshit. And I
love it. I'm super here for it. I got a chance to speak to Nika for maybe 30 seconds before we went live. The energy, it's palpable. It's absolutely real. I love that this is what you do. I think it makes sense, Sarah, why IGDA would be here at the Global Game Jam. And I want to talk a lot about what you guys do, and we'll expand on that for sure. But Sarah, I kind of want to toss the ball to you and talk about how you guys fit into this GGJ sort of situation, what you guys are doing here, and what this conversation is supposed to do for us here at the Global Game Jam.
Sure. So as Nika stated, the IGDA Foundation is dedicated to making the games industry, more inclusive and for anyone who wants to make games. And that's really what Global Game Jam is about. It's offering an opportunity for anyone in the world, who wants to make a game, but in a community where they can be supported and make friends and learn new skills. And so it was really natural that the IGDA Foundation wanted to partner with Global Game Jam and support them in their mission. Nika, is there anything that you think of leaving out here, because this feels so aligned with what we're doing, and it's just an opportunity as well to connect with these developers who may be interested in some of the programs that we offer, and also gives us a chance to learn more about what these developers value as well, so we can better serve them.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I love it, because we talked a lot about, Nika kind of introduced this conversation about inclusionist type deals, diversification and diversity and different people coming in, because there are a lot of boundaries to entry with respect to that social side of the world. But also, game development by itself is an esoteric art form, right? You guys are developers. You guys absolutely, when you say games are art, we're the people that are yes, it is. And so when you tell somebody okay, if you want to paint, just paint, bro. They can do it. But if you have this vision of a game, You can't just do it. You need some sort of help there, breaking down barriers, whether it's technology-wise for those in lesser developed countries, et cetera, or just knowledge-wise. And so how does IGDA kind of bridge that gap as well? Because that has to be a part of the conversation for sure.
Yeah, well, the IGDA Foundation typically runs a flagship program where we bring people through scholarships to GDC, the Game Developers Conference. Since that's gone away, we ended up taking our 60 grantees and doing a virtual exchange program, and we covered everything from game design and development to professional development, resume reviews. Sarah Spears is actually a product and an alumni of one of our grantee programs and can probably speak about the experience from, going from a scholarship recipient to a volunteer and is now a lead program manager for some of our, and we have a lot of offshoot projects that we collaborate on. I like to view the IGDA Foundation as like a corporate Robin Hood where we get like big ass companies to sponsor us and we go unrestricted, support the diverse communities and do it in a way that's actually going to be effective and not just hitting a bottom line or just checking a box on some bullshit internal report.
Certainly sounds like it. I mean, that's awesome. Sarah, we're totally going to loop around to your experience. Absolutely. Okay. I want to keep setting the table. No, that's sick. That's so cool. I think that's very cool because, like, listen, there are a lot of, like, good, in air quotes, type of things like this, and then people go through them, and then they never really talk about them, so that kind of says the world. Whereas if you go through it and then work back at it, clearly IGDA is kind of, working in the right direction. So Sarah's got her own story, but are there any, Sarah, when you were kind of like as working here with IGDA, what are some good like anecdotes that you've got working throughout the years? Before we get to you, like with other people, whether it's people, events, how has IGDA kind of directly impacted people in your experience?
Oh, wow. There's so many ways. I mean, I think the most obvious way is connecting some of our grantees with the organizations they really want to work for and helping them build a relationship and maybe eventually even work for them. But there's also other ways as well that I think that we forget to think about. So I've seen some of our grantees from like one part of the world, meet up with devs from another part of the world, and they build these lasting relationships and they work on these projects together remotely. And it wouldn't have occurred to them that they could do it, or they maybe would not have even been able to, without meeting them and being in a program where they're put together like that. We've connected them with mentors and had those mentors eventually bring people on to work with them. I mean, there's just so many different ways and possibilities for people to connect through these programs. We've also had one of my favorite little anecdotes from our most recent program, our online diversity program, is we actually had a meme off where we were making memes of a game developer named Osama. And it was really fun because at first it just seems like a really quirky thing, but it was an opportunity for everyone to kind of get to know each other and also connect with this really awesome developer who is also part of the IGDA Foundation programs, and just building kind of like almost a family, or just like a group of people who are really dedicated to games, who offer really different perspectives, who can grow with one another.
One of my favorite parts of this conversation is that we've had so far. It's been a short amount of time, and the word people, persons, individual, like that comes up all the, like more so than most like gamer conversations. Very person focused. It seems like, Nika, that you guys are here, and that's super important. At the end of the day, you guys are connecting people, networking and stuff. What kind of decision making goes into that? Like, how is a sausage made? How do you connect people to other folks? How do you make that sort of, is it just you shake up the names in a hat, or is there a decision making to connect those to others?
Well, we typically have an application process to bring people in, but really, like, the process used to be very protocol driven. You'd get accepted. A lot of people review all the applications. You get your visa. You come to GDC. And then once COVID hit, a lot of people were like, what are we going to do? And I remember the 2008 economy. I remember graduating. I remember being jobless and unsure of what opportunities were out there or weren't out there. And I think, this is probably not like, it's an authentic answer. It's not a great professional corporate answer, but we just made it up. Right? Like we just said, screw it. We have all these resources. We know all these people. No one else is doing it. So who knows? I'm a paranoid Yancey. I actually have a master's degree in biodefense. So I went straight into bunker mode and was like, this is an attack. Like, this will last forever. And with that expectation, I know that doomsday expectation, here we are today. Yeah. I mean, there's a great line in Guardians of the Galaxy, right, when they're all like flying around and some guy says something, goes, oh, you just made up that word. But then they realize, like, well, all words are made up. Just like our jobs, just like our social constructs, just like our programs, like they're all just made up. So we decided like our limits are basically our own. Like it's how we our programs. It's how we choose to move forward, and we just made an active choice saying like, screw it, let's go, let's help people. Like we're all stuck at home. Like I could just hang out and eat Cheetos all day. Or I could tag team with Sarah and just like help these people that we've already awarded grants to and like provide them some level of relief from like whatever their at-home scenarios are or whatever their hardships may be. And we saw it from around the world. We didn't really sleep much because our grantees were in 14 countries and they were all in different time zones. But the community, I mean, I'm, Sarah, curious if you have anything to add, but the community really came together in ways that I wasn't ready for.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, after the program ended, everyone still talks to each other. They've, got off and made their own little groups. I know some of them are in Global Game Jam in groups together, or started their own studios together and are actively supporting one another. It's absolutely fascinating because I don't think Nika and I would have ever imagined that people would want to build and stay in this community together for so long. And so now it's always a little happy surprise when we see, people on Twitter saying, hey, we're doing a panel together and it's all of our grantees. It's fabulous.
Yeah, it's also mind-blowing.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the stretch, that's exactly kind of where I was going to go. Is you guys have been doing this for a couple of years, or
not the virtual? The virtual's new. Yeah, we've been around since 2008, 2009.
Yeah, like it's a big chunk of time here, and so you've kind of like gotten the opportunity to see people come through and, like in Sarah's case, work back at it. What's been the idea? You guys don't seem to be the type to rest on your laurels, of course, but I'm sure you've glanced out at the success that you have obviously have gained a little bit. So like, what has that been like, seeing that community grow, et cetera? You mentioned seeing them here in Global Game Jam. Where else have you kind of seen like the community from IGDA kind of go to?
Yeah, from our IGDA Foundation grantees, I mean, they're getting jobs, they're getting funded, they're pushing forward and uplifting one another, and quite frankly, it's a little addictive. So we just want to do more. Like, we have this community, we're still online, we're online for the foreseeable future, and that's why we partnered with the Global Game Jam to put together a diversifier with our partners over at Grant for the Web. When we saw people creating, games in isolation, we realized that a lot of people that aren't in our more Western or European countries, like the UK or the United States, like they don't have access to a lot of places. Like they don't have access to capital. They don't have access to like work at, AAA companies in California. We're dealing with visa restriction, healthcare, whatever. This pandemic has really changed a lot, even though we're all working from home. The access to entry is even more difficult than ever. And that's why we were like, you know what? Like 2020 was all about like kind of stabilizing and making shit up. Let's take that one step further. How can we provide alternative forms of monetization for game creators so they're not beholden? They're not beholden to weird angel investors or VC money. Something I learned throughout this program is that you've got indies creating games and just creating cool games and just selling off their entire IP and their rights and everything for like $20,000 to a publisher. That model just seems broken. The way that you create and source your own income, right? If you create a web-based game, you're reliant on internet ads. Well, the internet has changed, and not every algorithm really like serves the need of the creative. Like, where is that old adage of the internet where you could just like, I still remember my first like stumbling upon albinoblacksheep.com or like Tumblr before it got weird. Like, where did that stuff go? Like, if I want to find like a cool, quirky game, I have to like parse through Reddit and ask around, and like, if everything is just like monetized in a weird way.
Like the aggregation of the internet happened like a decade ago, where you and I remember like E-Bombs was the first culprit of this, but I'll include him in the, we remember all those old school sites where it was like somebody asked me how many websites do you go to? I was like, dude, all of them, on the internet all the time. And then I really look at it, I'm like, I go to Twitter, I go to Reddit,
I Google.
I Google things. Whereas beforehand, like you said, I would go from E-Bombs to Albino to Congregate to like Newgrounds, back and forth. Yeah, like the world before YouTube, right? Like, oh my goodness. But I mean, so that sort of openness, like part of me, I always feel like this is a deep cut reference, but you and I seem to. I always feel like the scientist from Independence Day when I talk about 2020. I'm like, it's exciting, and everybody's like, it's not exciting. It's a terrible situation. I'm like, yeah, but go with me here. Like the idea, like a lot of these boundaries and barriers of entry, like if you are the most talented creative game developer and you're living in, Rio de Janeiro, your ability to get here to GDC is limited. Whereas like you want to jump in a vMix or a Skype call, bang, you can do that. And you seem like kind of the perfect intermediary. You personally, of course, but also like IGDA as Foundation in general seem like a good intermediary there. So you brought up some challenges that 2020 brought us. We all know the challenges, but I'm still eating Cheetos. Were there any positives here that, you guys were able to go with, change things? Like you said, the rules are fake, so we make some new ones last year. Are there any positive stories through last year?
I mean, we have a few, like Sarah can maybe touch base on a lot of them, but the number one thing is like, when we run these boot camps at GDC, we're begging veterans and notable people for their time to stop by in the middle of meetings to like support and chat and whatever. Now, like, we asked the grantees, like, send us a wish list of people you'd like to hear from. And every single person I called, the pitch was like, do you have an hour to spare to talk to a bunch of diverse people trying to like further their careers in games? And it's totally locked. It's not public facing. And it's like an AMA / like whatever. And every single person said yes. And I don't think we were ready for that, because that was part of why like we never slept, is because all these people wanted to record and do synchronous and asynchronous. So like people that normally, like if you're like starting from ground zero, people that you would have never gotten like a chance to talk to in a million years are now giving you an hour of devoted time live on a Zoom chat to, ask anything you want.
That's wild.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of access, again, kind of goes with the internet, kind of generation, everything. So it really makes sense. And seeing that sort of, approach is sick. Obviously, things recently changed. Sarah, you got a chance to kind of run through the system as normal, whatever normal means, right? So you got to talk to some of these people, but you did a lot more. Talk to me, for the people out there that might be applying or thinking about like jumping into this sort of world. What was your experience like coming through as a grantee with the IGDA Foundation? Yeah, we got there.
Wow. It was really fun. And it was life-changing, really. So I wanted to get into games development when I was in college, and I went to a university that didn't have an established game program, but I was in Boston. And I had heard through some of the local devs there about the IGDA Foundation. I looked into their program and applied, and I didn't get in the first year, but I did everything I could to try and stand out, and I got in the next year, and I was so excited. And going through, I realized that there's so many people in game development, so many games. And one of the fondest memories I had was at the end of every day, my friends and I would get together. We'd all, we had different rooms, so we'd all gather in a room together, order pizza, and talk about what we had done. And we would call like daily postmortems and talk about how to help each other. And that was really important to me, transitioning to a volunteer, I became a volunteer for the IGDA Scholars Program and tried to keep that tradition alive, where we'd all gather in a room, listen to music, eat pizza. And then that was essentially kind of like one of the major thoughts behind the online program as well, is basically recreating that end of the day hangout. How can I help you? You know, what did you learn? What are you doing? I'm so excited about it. But really and truly, it was great because I connected with so many different people outside of Boston. Love the Boston community, but outside of Boston, learned about so many other games, actually figured out what I wanted to do in games. You know, met some really lovely people who pointed me in the right direction. I was able to actually take the steps to be able to achieve what I wanted to. And I think that's so helpful because a lot of our grantees, especially those who are really first starting in their career, have a general sense, but need someone to say, look, there's this thing and there's this thing. And then, you know, having the opportunity to actually go after it. So yeah, it's a lot. I could just go on forever.
It's huge. No, it's so huge. First of all, never apologize for talking on an interview. That's the whole reason we're here. But everyone wants to hear from you. But no, this is huge because I think a lot of there's like this gap in between like our world of academia. We spend 20 years sometimes in school figuring out, and then the quote unquote real world. And there's this gap where they just expect you to figure it out. And like, you know, if you're working in like a regular industry, because gaming is a capital FJ, fun job, right? Like there's a lot of, well, you know, marketing's been around for 137 years. So like you're just kind of scooped up in there. But gaming, especially as a person of color, a woman, there are a lot of like barriers. And so like this is the liaison between the two. It's perfect. It makes a lot of sense how you guys kind of come out and do things. And so looking at your success, Sarah, that's pretty sick, seeing you come back here and work with IGDA, not even just with the foundation but on your own, like you said, figuring out what you want to do in gaming. Are there any other like notable people from the foundation that have either like gone through it or worked up top or figured out anything that you guys have been able to do?
Gosh, I mean, like Robin Heineke used to be an IGDA scholar. Osama Dorias was a Next Gen leader. There are a lot of Next Gen leaders that now run the Latinx and Gaming Foundation while managing full-time jobs. There are countless more, but what's hilarious is like, to me, they all kind of blur into like a Brady Bunch, you know, euphoria. So I know that they're successful because like, you know, some grantee that I just yelled at to take a shower before their interview, then will post something on, and it'll come across my Twitter, and they have like 100,000 followers. And I was like, oh, good for you, man. Still need to take a shower before your interview, but like, right, like, because you see them in a different light. But in the public sphere, I mean, they're winning awards, they're creating games, and it's hard to track all of them. We now have like well over 800 alumni, and it's just like, go forth, conquer, be successful. Remember, you know, like your roots, and pay it forward. And that's it. And that's what we do. So even beyond our program, that's why we want to continue partnering with Global Game Jam. We hope people try out our diversifier, especially in countries where maybe like alternative monetization, you know, could actually support you and create different streams of income. You know, this is a year we want to experiment how we break down more barriers. And just like what's going on with GameStop and Reddit, like I want cash to end up in the pockets of like cool kick-ass creators. So like, let's go.
I'm here for that. Let's take that and run with it. Not the GameStop, although just hold that for now. But as far as the diversifier is concerned, you and I are going to get into trouble at some point. I just know.
Those
anyway.
diamond hands, get those tendies quick. Say every like weird paper hands, whatever. What are all the lingo on that? I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not
gold-plated charcuterie.
I'll be honest. I'm just here to troll the Global Game Jam stream.
I mean, you and I both, so it works out perfectly. But I will be doing you a disservice if I continue to detour us. So let's keep on with your diversifier, because that's what we are here for. Talk to me about this. You mentioned it real quick. You mentioned it earlier. This year, diversifier, you mentioned different streams of revenue. first of all, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing there, and then what you hope to achieve with it.
Yeah, so
Sure.
Sarah can go into like how to implement it and whatnot, but the overarching idea is how do we just how do we allow and have game creators like, create a living making games on their own without being beholden, as the internet is becoming less and less decentralized and more focused on things that are out of our control, like algorithms, etc. So how do you go forth and make beautiful games and also make some cash and people forget that outside of the US and UK, currency is different, like bartering is different, like the economies are just simply
Just say money
different.
is
So
fake.
I know it's like, well, like I said, everything's made up, even money is made up, but it's not made up, like you got to eat, that is like a requirement. So like, eating is necessary. So we want to this year maybe try out a little experiment with a global game jam and see like how, is this feasible? What kind of games come back? What happens if you have like this limitless notion of like create whatever you want and then maybe you'll get some cash back in your pocket by implementing, the tools and standards that we're putting forward. So Sarah can kind of talk more a little bit about the implementation and like what it means.
Right. Okay. So I'm not the most technical person in the world, but what makes this so great is there's so much wonderful documentation available for this. So essentially, we have a lot of information on the IGDA Foundation's website, specifically on our Global Game Jam page, that gives you more detailed instructions and examples. But there's actually an API that's been created with documentation that explains how you can just drop in your code into your game and it kind of sets everything up. It's so simple. There's also a whole bunch of games that have already been made that are open source. You can go look at them on GitHub and see how they implemented it as well. Really and truly, that's kind of like the point of this, which is to show people that it doesn't have to be difficult. You can earn money and it doesn't need to be like this really complicated, obtuse method. It's just as simple as going in, popping in your code into your web game, and then just testing it to make sure it works. And the IGDA Foundation has brought on a couple of developers who are available to, help you if you have any questions or, help you troubleshoot if you can't get things working just the way you want. But they've been doing this for years. They run their own jams where they talk about web monetization as well. So you really have a lot of support, both written and via person, to help you kind of implement this into your project for the game jam.
So it works out as sort of like what makes this different than, just dropping a PayPal link? Like what does the diversifier do for me as a game developer that's different otherwise?
Well, so right now there are pretty traditional forms of how you can buy games and make money, really. You can subscribe to a Patreon, you can do a one-time purchase, sometimes they're in-app purchases or there's ads. Those are pretty much the traditional methods. So what this does is this allows users to basically pay through like a virtual wallet system. And I'm not super technical in explaining how it works, but essentially what it does is it lets players pay through very non-invasive means. Of course, it isn't going to just take money from you randomly. You actually have to, supply and agree to it. I just want to preface that. We're not going to, no one's taking money without your permission. But essentially, it basically integrates seamlessly into the gameplay experience so that it's not, you're not stuck with an ad every 5 seconds. I think we've all played a game where, you're in the middle of a level and something pops up for another game. But this basically gives you more control about with like how you're getting money through the game. Like is it a purchase, or is it something like every time you play a level, maybe like a tiny bit of money goes through to the wallet of the creator. And what it's really meant to be is very open, and so everyone knows exactly how it works, and so no one feels like they're being scammed or feel like their data is being exposed.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was a big deal. Both like, people obviously are always scrutinous of where their money's going. But I think recently, the past couple of years, especially with 2020, we're all just chilling on our phone. People have been a little bit more aware of unscrupulous people coming out here and doing things. And I mean, conversation about data privacy. So like, yeah, there's a lot of concern there. And I think that, the diversifier, this is sick. You guys have a couple of different sort of approaches here, right? You have your grantee program where you're kind of fostering like individuals on the micro level, so to speak, to use gamer terms, and then the macro, so to speak, you're working with this diversifier doing this sort of thing. Are there any other like prongs to what IGDA kind of does? Because it seems like a huge vision. You guys are laughing, so clearly there is.
Yeah, we have a lot of prongs, and so the IGDA Foundation, we partner with a lot of people. We've been doing Play It Forward summits and getting diverse speakers to come together and talk about their experiences and these tough issues we're facing in various communities. We helped support the Black in Gaming Awards last year. We helped support the Latinx in Gaming Conference last year. We'll randomly, do online fundraisers to raise scholarships, but make it fun, where the games industry gathering was fantastic and hosted a 24-hour holiday party. 24-hour holiday party slash fundraiser where people could buy tickets for $10 a pop, and there's a vetted community called the Games Industry Gathering where we all hang out every Friday for 12 hours to network and meet to replace kind of the conference structure. The guy who hosts it, his name is Guy. I just realized I think he was also the keynote for this thing. Man, Guy's everywhere. He's a guy named Guy. But anyway, I mean, we're just doing a lot of different things. We're open to partnering with a lot of different companies and people who really truly give a shit about diversity and inclusion. If people want to volunteer, we're absolutely open. We hope people really implement the diversifier because we have big plans for this, and hopefully those plans, which will be announced on February 16th, might end up in distributing some more cash to people from marginalized backgrounds. So we're really hoping that people will, test out we'll test out the diversifier, give us feedback on what it was like, make passionate games that they really, really care about, and also just like be transparent, like what's working, what's not working, like is this useful, is this helping, are we actually breaking down barriers to when it comes to like financially supporting ourselves without being beholden to I just think we live in a world where, I don't know about you all, but I absolutely love my autonomy. After a decade of working for the man, I'm just like, I can't do it anymore. If someone's like, talk to HR, I'm just like, nope. Here's the cliff. I'm walking right off of it. And that's what it is. So like, how can we provide more autonomy in this industry that is already so rigid and structured in some ways, but there's also it's very, very innocuous on how you get a job to begin with. So
yeah, which is sick. Cause I mean, that brings us full circle to what we're doing here today. Global Game Jam. This allows a lot of people to kind of come out and make their own nuclear throne, if you will, right? Like you can be your own autonomous person and come out here and three people and a pack of pizzas make a game, include diversifier in it, and now you can pay rent. Like that is really, really sick from an outsider's perspective. You guys much closer to the node than I am, so to speak. How exactly does the Global Game Jam and IGDA Foundation kind of come together? Like this seems like there's a lot of in it, but yeah.
Look, the IGDA Foundation and Global Game Jam came together with two other nonprofits last year to do an online fundraiser to ensure that the nonprofits continue to exist, especially in a COVID world. And it was a beautiful endeavor to have 4 female-led nonprofits come together to ensure that our programs exist and push forward, and that open communication across nonprofits and advocates, all that have their own niche program. Global Game Jam people from around the world, doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, come together and make games. The fact that we're doing it on the internet, I wonder like how it's going to go, and I'm curious to see the numbers and what games come out of it. But even last year, we had a very, very serious crossover where two of our grantees coming in from Pakistan to GDC had their visas denied because they were just rejected that they couldn't come, and so they made a game about it at the last Global Game Jam called Trying to Fly, and then that game went viral because people were associating it with our U.S. political system, and now you just had like two brilliant female devs that are getting requests from CNN and whatever, and I had to call Kate and be like, what happened at this Global Game Jam? We're trying to get these visas approved. Like, what are you guys doing?
It was they got denied and it wound up better, but that's
kind of, yeah. I mean, it got denied, and I still remember being like, don't worry, there'll be other GDCs. And then of course the pandemic hit, and I was like, it's all a wash anyway.
Maybe there won't be.
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, somebody more spiritual than me will clam it up to karma or whatnot. But the idea that these good people try to come in, can't, and the whole situation, there's something cosmic bigger than me there. But it's all thumbs up and it's good. I'm totally sure. But that's sick. I mean, that is a very tangible way. Trust me, you guys know just as well as I do how many panels we've sat on about diversification in gaming, and it's all 6 white dudes and like a woman at the end, and like this is real. And you're tangibly bringing people into the fold, you're tangibly doing this sort of thing. We're seeing people make the leap to professional game development. That's exciting. That's got to be awesome. So I mean, we've talked a lot about kind of lofty, head in the sky sort of thing. I wanna give you kind of a chance to acknowledge the squad. Are you guys proud of what you've been able to do here in, you said 2008? It's been a little over 10 years. I mean, that's got to be a good feeling. You guys are, a lot of work to do, but you guys are crushing it.
How are you feeling, Sarah?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I love it. So I have a day job and I love them. But the foundation is the key thing that I've told every single place I've worked. I've said, I want a job and I like being able to survive, but I need to be a part of the IGDA Foundation. And that is number one to me, just because I'm so proud of what we're doing and so passionate about making games more accessible for all people, regardless of who they are, their background. And I think that, despite COVID, the foundation is, and I'm on the inside, so I can kind of say, but I see it, which is we've got so many amazing opportunities and programs coming up. And I'm so proud of it because we're going to be able to bring even more people into game development, help, make more dreams come true, make it more accessible to people, who may not have ever dreamed. When I was a child, I never even thought about game development as a career. How many people are now going to be able to see it as a job, who are going to be able to make games, if they want to. There's just a lot of really awesome things. And I'm so happy the foundation is so passionate and wants to do this, because we always need more voices who help uplift others in this industry.
Certainly, loud and proud from this area. So it's sick, getting a chance to see behind the scenes how it works out, watching you guys put people into positions here. And then, real close to the ground here, Global Game Jam, you guys are obviously taking part by doing talks like this or whatnot. Did you mention you had some grantees here in the Game Jam this year?
I'm sure.
Yes, I do. In our online program chat, people were asking who's doing Global Game Jam, and they were planning on stuff together. And I know one of our grantees was sharing ideas, and I said, "Oh, y'all are in Global Game Jam?" And so I've been trying to find them in the Discord, find them. I want to be like, "Hey, here's a group." Yeah, I'm really excited about it, and I love that they're planning together. It's been almost a year since the online program, and they're still doing stuff together. That's amazing.
Yeah, the theme this year is lost and found. It's an interesting kind of all right, what's that? Okay, just run with it. Why are you laughing here?
It's good. It's so good.
I've got so many jokes. Right?
Don't
what have you I don't know. Like, think about it. Like, what have you lost and found in a pandemic, right? Like, I've lost myself, but I found, but I found a lot of things in this box I didn't know existed in my apartment.
I lost my sanity, but I found out I have a lot of plants I need to water, right? Like,
I know, right? Like I lost.
so now it's root beer tapper, but with watering plants.
Yeah. I lost in-person gatherings, but I found my Twitter handle and decided to pick that back up again.
Yeah, there's a lot to run with, I suppose. You guys are doing more behind the scenes stuff, but surprise! Right now, you two have to be a part of the Global Game Jam. What game are you guys making?
Me? We're going to be, so we're going to focus our efforts. I mean, Sarah might be making a game. We're going to focus our efforts on supporting people who need to use the diversifier in case they have questions, because we know it's new, it's different. And so we have a Discord chat available that's hashtag IGDA-Foundation. If people want to use a diversifier, ask questions, implement it, talk to us about game design. If you just want to hang out, like, I'm basically in there checking it out. I'm so bad at Discord in general, which is why we have other people helping. Like, there's more servers. I mean, that's my next jam is like, when do I get to like Murray Co my digital life? But that's going to be our primary focus, is supporting people who are trying to implement and have questions, and just being available. Like a really shitty customer service rep.
I mean,
we'll guide you to the right person. Yeah.
Well,
Sarah's like the good customer service. Sarah's like the good customer service rep. I'm the one you complain about.
I'm a producer. I'm a producer by trade, so I feel like sometimes we are very much guiding you to the right person. So it's all in a day's work.
I mean, at the end of the day, to use a law term, it's about mens rea. It's about the intent, right? We've got maybe cop is the wrong way, but like the angel devil on the shoulder up here. All right, you guys are both putting out the same energy, just a couple more swears from this side of the building. But it's all good.
like a Discord Loki,
Yeah.
No?
That's
sure.
Description. That's pretty good.
I'll run with it. I'll run with it. I think that's absolutely something we can run and hide with. Before we close out, I want to ask you sort of a head of the clouds type question, something you can take and run with. One piece of advice for our game jammers this weekend, whether it's big picture or small picture, both of you. Nika first.
Take risks. Don't remember that all words are made up, all jobs are made up, all these social constructs are just like whatever. If you are apprehensive about what people are going to think about you or your game or whatever, screw it. This is the one place where you don't have a boss or a person or whatever judging you. Do what you love, do it with a passion. Don't take shit from anyone. And if it doesn't work out, that's perfectly okay too. Nobody comes out making a perfect game in their first whatever. And it's just do something that makes you want to get up and out of bed in the morning. And then if you're one of those people who actually take the risk and your game isn't perfect, send it to me. I will play it, because I'm so excited to see what comes out of this.
Live stream with Nika playing the games.
Yeah.
Man, that was really good advice, Nika. I think I'll suggest something kind of practical, and this is something that I've definitely run into. Take care of yourself during a game jam. It's so exciting and wonderful, and I know you may want to stay up for multiple days. Get some sleep. You are more important. You are way more important in an industry where we're still struggling with workplaces that promote overworking and just a culture where productivity is the most important thing. It's not. You are the most important thing. Get some sleep, take a nap, eat some food, go relax for a little bit. It's okay to do that too.
I take my advice back. Listen to Sarah.
No, because I was just gonna
grind. Do what you like. Put everything into it.
But there's a line. There's a line between productivity and passion. I have
I don't
stayed
know
up
what
for
that
12
line
hours
is.
straight. No, exactly, and that's the thing, because you and I, we're like, where are my Magic the Gathering nerds? We're like, is it right? We're like all passion, but also science, like red, blue, and red. The idea is like, the idea is like, listen, I have totally stayed up for 12 hours writing a piece that I'm really into, but like, you shouldn't do that all the time. If you're on that passion streak and you're in that zone, then go ahead and do it. But then, like, remember to shower, eat your food, and like get your 6 hours the next day. Absolutely, it's a balance. My balance isn't that great, but I can still kind of skateboard, so that's what counts here. IGDA Foundation, you guys have been killing it. Nika and Sarah, where can we find Foundation and you two? That's big eyes.
Well,
yes. Where can we find the Foundation?
Well, you can find the IGDA Foundation at igdafoundation.org.
Nice.
We also have a Twitter, which is at IGDA Foundation.
Awesome.
Nika,
awesome.
Nika,
Yeah, you can find what?
Oh, I was going to say, do you want to say where you can find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Nika. That's probably the best one. I'm on Discord, but I'm really bad at it. So I'm
Twitter's
somewhere
good.
on Discord. Yeah, I'm somewhere on Discord at Batman or something.
Right. Yes. I never.
Yeah, we'll figure that one out. I like the Twitter one. How about you, Sarah?
I didn't snag my first name like Nika did, because Nika's amazing and I don't know how that happened. But I'm okay at S and then SPIERS_K. It's just my name. And you'll know it's me because there's a banner with my cat Anders just staring at you. That's how you know you found the right person.
Right.
I love
Or
it.
just
Cats
add me and
in the
ask me for. Go ahead.
Ask you for what?
Oh, so they could just add me and then ask me for Sarah's handle, since it's so
I'm sorry,
complicated.
yeah.
She wasn't an early adopter of Twitter, clearly.
I wasn't. I was very anti-Twitter until 2017.
Oh, wow.
I think a lot of people were. 2020 was a big jump for a lot of people. My mom was like, so I got a Twitter? And I was like, okay, I got to go now. But we got to go now. Great stuff here from Nika and Sarah presenting the IGDA Foundation. Great work bringing diversity into game development and helping game developers continue pushing on forward. Shout out to the new endeavor, The Diversifier, allowing different people to find different monetization in their games. And shout out to the Global Game Jam. That's what we're doing. The show will continue in just a matter of moments. Shout out to my two guests. We'll keep it rolling. We'll be right back after this.